India's journey as an independent nation commenced on August 15, 1947, a date etched in history as a moment of profound hope and jubilation for its millions. However, this dawn of freedom was tragically overshadowed by the immense trauma and violence of the partition, which carved the subcontinent along religious lines, creating Pakistan as an Islamic state. In stark contrast, India's founding leaders, with remarkable foresight, consciously chose a secular path, envisioning a republic where all citizens, irrespective of their faith, would be equal partners in nation building and enjoy the same rights and protections under the law. At the forefront of this secular commitment was Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister. Nehru was a staunch advocate for a modern, rational and scientific approach to governance, deeply believing that religion must be a private matter, separate from the affairs of the state. He tirelessly worked to instill these values into the nascent republic, ensuring that government policies were not influenced by religious dogma. His vision was of an India where a scientific temper would prevail over obscurantism and where national identity would transcend narrow religious affiliations, fostering a truly inclusive society for all its diverse peoples. The Constituent Assembly of India, tasked with framing the nation's guiding document, engaged in extensive debates on the nature of Indian secularism. While the word secular was not initially in the preamble, the spirit of secularism was deeply embedded in various fundamental rights and directive principles. The leaders envisioned a state that did not profess any religion as its own, but rather respected all faiths equally. This commitment to Sarvadharma Samabhava, equal respect for all religions, was seen as essential for maintaining national unity amidst India's staggering religious diversity and cultural pluralism. The early years of independent India were fraught with challenges to this secular ideal. The fresh wounds of partition led to persistent communal tensions in several parts of the country, testing the resolve of the new administration. The complex task of integrating hundreds of princely states, each with its own socio-religious dynamics, into the Indian Union required careful handling. Furthermore, forging a cohesive national identity that could rise above caste, creed and language, while ensuring equal citizenship and opportunities for everyone, irrespective of their religious beliefs, was a monumental undertaking that shaped the early trajectory of India's secular journey. A significant formal step in India's secular journey was the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution in 1976, enacted during the tenure of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. This amendment officially inserted the word secular into the preamble, explicitly declaring India as a sovereign, socialist, secular democratic republic. While this was seen by some as a political move during the emergency, it nonetheless gave constitutional explicitness to a principle that was already implicit. Decades later, in 2020, the Supreme Court dismissed petitions that challenged this amendment, stating there was no legitimate cause for such a challenge after more than 4 decades, thereby affirming its permanence. The Indian Constitution, from its very inception, enshrined several key provisions that laid the groundwork for a secular state. Articles 25 to 28 are particularly crucial, guaranteeing freedom of conscience and the right to freely profess, practice and propagate religion to all citizens. Article 26 grants religious denominations the right to manage their own affairs in matters of religion. Critically, Article 27 prohibits the state from compelling any citizen to pay taxes for the promotion or maintenance of any particular religion or religious denomination, ensuring financial neutrality. Article 28 further stipulates that no religious instruction shall be provided in any educational institution wholly maintained out of state funds. A landmark moment in the judicial interpretation of secularism came with the Supreme Court's judgment in the S.R. Bommai v. Union of India case in 1994. In this historic ruling, the court unequivocally declared that secularism is a basic feature of the Indian Constitution. This meant that the secular character of the nation could not be altered even by a constitutional amendment. The judgment emphasized that the state must treat all religions with equal respect and that there can be no state religion. This pronouncement significantly fortified India's secular framework, providing a powerful legal bulwark against attempts to undermine religious neutrality by political forces. Even before the S.R. Bommai case, the Indian judiciary had consistently played a vital role in interpreting and upholding secular principles. Early court decisions meticulously worked to strike a balance between individual and collective religious freedoms on one hand, and public order, morality, and health on the other. These foundational rulings also focused on protecting the rights of religious and linguistic minorities, ensuring they could preserve their distinct identities. The judiciary's thoughtful engagement with complex religious issues from the early years helped shape an evolving, nuanced understanding of secularism tailored to India's unique socio-cultural context, establishing its role as a crucial arbiter. In recent years, the Supreme Court has continued to shape the contours of Indian secularism through significant judgments. For instance, in November 2024, the court upheld the Uttar Pradesh Board of Madrasa Education Act 2004. This decision was framed as promoting positive secularism, advocating for the equal treatment of minority educational institutions while allowing them to retain their distinct minority character. Such judgments reflect an ongoing judicial effort to balance the state's regulatory powers with the specific rights granted to minority communities, ensuring their educational advancement within the constitutional framework of equality and religious freedom. The legal terrain surrounding religious conversions and personal laws remains a focal point of debate and judicial scrutiny. In May 2025, the Allahabad High Court upheld Uttar Pradesh's anti-conversion law, emphasizing that the state must maintain a principled equidistance from all religions. The court observed that Indian secularism is rooted in equal respect for all faiths and that any presumption of one religion's superiority over another is antithetical to this ideal. Concurrently, the Supreme Court began hearing petitions in May 2025 challenging amendments to the Waqf Act, where the Solicitor General argued that Waqf itself is an inherently secular concept involving property dedication, common across religions and not interfering with essential Muslim religious practices. The rights of minority educational institutions and questions of religious attire have also seen important judicial interventions. In a significant ruling in November 2024, the Supreme Court granted minority status to Aligarh Muslim University, AMU, overruling its earlier 1967 decision in S. Aziz Baisha vs. Union of India. This judgment also laid down new indicators for determining the minority status of educational institutions, clarifying a long-standing issue. Furthermore, in August 2024, a Supreme Court bench stayed a circular that banned hijabs, caps, and other religious symbols on college campuses in Karnataka, underscoring the importance of freedom of attire and personal expression, pending a final resolution of the complex case. Contentious issues surrounding religious sites and expressions continue to test the judiciary's balancing act. The Supreme Court has imposed a stay on all pending and new suits concerning the Places of Worship Act 1991 until the constitutionality of the Act itself is decided, reflecting the sensitivity and potential for conflict in disputes over historical religious sites. In another instance reported in December 2024, the Supreme Court began deliberations on whether chanting Jai Shri Ram within mosque premises would constitute a criminal offense, highlighting the delicate legal and social questions that arise when religious sentiments and public order intersect, requiring careful judicial consideration to maintain peace and harmony. Despite a robust constitutional and judicial framework, India's secular fabric faces significant contemporary challenges. The rise of religious nationalism and majoritarian ideologies in recent years has led to increased social polarization and, at times, has strained intercommunity relations. This trend often manifests in heightened political rhetoric along religious lines, creating an environment of unease for minority communities. Reports of persecution, such as the 50 incidents against Christians recorded in Uttar Pradesh between January and April 2025, underscore the real-world impact of these challenges and the anxieties they generate among vulnerable groups regarding their safety and equal status. The role of the state and its institutions, particularly law enforcement, is crucial in addressing communal tensions and safeguarding the rights of all citizens, especially minorities. There is a persistent need for the impartial application of laws, including controversial anti-conversion statutes, to ensure they are not misused to harass or target specific religious communities unfairly. Justice D.I. Chandrachud's observation that Indian secularism allows for state involvement in religious activities without compromising their character, alongside the protections offered by Articles 29 and 30 for the cultural and educational rights of minorities, provides a guiding principle for navigating these complex dynamics. The concept of positive secularism, where the state maintains equal respect for all religions rather than a strict separation, continues to be debated and refined in India. Recent judicial actions, such as the Supreme Court's December 2024 order for the mapping and preservation of Rajasthan's sacred groves, recognizing their cultural and spiritual significance, reflect this nuanced approach. Similarly, the court's recognition in March 2024 of a fundamental right to be free from climate change effects, which also emphasized the cultural rights of indigenous communities tied to their religious practices and nature, showcases an expanding understanding of secularism that encompasses diverse forms of heritage and belief systems. Looking ahead, the future of secularism in India hinges on the continued resilience of its democratic institutions, with the judiciary playing an indispensable role as the guardian of constitutional values. However, formal institutions alone are not enough. Active citizen engagement, robust interfaith dialogue, and an unwavering commitment from all sections of society to uphold the foundational principles of equality, tolerance, and mutual respect are vital. Sustaining India's unique secular ethos, which has been a cornerstone of its identity, is essential for fostering a harmonious, inclusive, and progressive future for the nation and all its people.